The office chair squeaked when I leaned back. Thin cushion, metal frame, government issue. The kind designed to keep meetings short. Across the desk, Robert Garcia tapped the corner of a manila folder against the laminate surface, perfectly aligned with the edge. His cheap navy suit had the sharp creases of recent dry cleaning. Department of Urban Sanitation needs people with your background, Mr. Patterson. He squared the folder with the desk edge. Specialized cleanup operations require discipline and discretion. I'd been out of the Marines for 6 months. My savings had thinned to transparent. The interview was my third that week, following a security company that wanted midnight mall patrols and a construction outfit that had already filled the position before I arrived. What kind of specialized cleanup are we talking about? I asked. Garcia's face remained neutral. Hazardous materials, contamination sites, situations requiring thorough documentation and protocol adherence. He slid the folder toward me. The pay is $87 per hour with guaranteed minimum 40-hour weeks. My expression must have changed because Garcia nodded slightly. That was triple what I'd made as a squad leader in Afghanistan. Military experience transitions well to our operations, he continued. You understand chain of command, equipment maintenance, and after-action reporting. The folder contained a stack of documents with yellow sticky tabs marking signature lines. The top page had classified stamped in faded red. Behind it lay what appeared to be a standard employment contract, except for paragraphs detailing criminal penalties for disclosure of operational information. This all seems excessive for cleaning up industrial spills, I said. Garcia didn't blink. Some materials we handle have national security implications, hence the clearance requirements. I flipped through more pages. Liability waivers, medical disclosures, sections about containment protocols, and evidence mitigation procedures. You're not reading carefully, Garcia observed. Does anyone? No. A small crack in his professional veneer. They don't. I signed where indicated. My pen left faint impressions in the government grade paper. Garcia collected each sheet as I finished, checking signatures before moving to the next tab. When I reached the final page, he produced a plastic ID badge with my military photo and the words, Urban Sanitation Specialist, Level 2. How'd you get my service photo? We maintain interagency relationships. He handed me the badge along with a folded sheet of paper. Equipment checklist. Uniforms provided on site. Report to the address listed at 0600 tomorrow. The list included items I expected, hazmat suits, respirators, industrial disinfectants, and others I didn't. Memory card degaussers, digital evidence kits, verification scanners. What exactly will I be cleaning? I asked. Garcia stood, straightening his tie with practiced efficiency. You'll understand everything once you see your first sight, Mr. Patterson. He extended his hand. Welcome to the department. His handshake was firm, dry, and precisely 3 seconds long. I noticed a small scar across his right knuckles, the kind you get from impact against teeth. Outside, I crossed the parking lot toward my truck. The government building behind me was unremarkable. Beige concrete with narrow windows, the kind that houses tax assessors and licensing bureaus. No department name appeared on any sign. My phone buzzed at 9:17 that evening. Unknown number, local area code. The message read, Baltimore, 421 Oakwood Drive, 0600. Meet Daniel Martinez on site. Bring ID. Garcia. I checked the address online. Suburban neighborhood, middle income. Nothing special. I set my alarm for 4:30 and laid out my boots and cleanest jeans. Whatever waited in Baltimore would beat staring at apartment walls, counting down days until rent came due again. The job couldn't be worse than what I'd already seen overseas. At least this time I'd get paid properly for cleaning up other people's messes. I pulled up to the address at 4 minutes before 600 hours. The sun hadn't cleared the rooftops yet, casting long shadows across the suburban lawn. 4 unmarked white vans lined the curb in front of 421 Oakwood Drive. Men in white hazmat suits moved between them with the efficiency of people who'd done this many times before. The house itself looked unremarkable. 2-story colonial with beige siding, attached garage, basketball hoop mounted above it. Decorative shutters flanked the windows. A circular lawn sprinkler sat forgotten in the middle of the front yard. I checked my phone once more. This was the right address. A man in jeans and a dark blue work shirt approached as I stepped out of my truck. Mid-30s, salt and pepper stubble, eyes that had seen too much. He carried a clipboard and wore a badge identical to the one Garcia had given me. "Patterson?" He extended his hand. "Daniel Martinez. You're my new trainee." His grip was calloused, firm, working hands. "Josh," I said. Garcia didn't explain much about what I'd be doing. Martinez's mouth tightened. No, he wouldn't. He handed me a folded hazmat suit from his back pocket. "Put this on, booties over your shoes. Hair covering if your hair's longer than an inch, full seal." I unfolded the suit while he watched, assessing. Military habits kicked in, checking seams, examining the respirator attachment points. The material was thicker than standard hazmat gear I'd seen before. "You were military," Martinez observed. "Marines. 3 tours in Afghanistan." He nodded. "Good. This will be easier for you than most." He turned toward the house. "When we go in, stay behind me. Touch only what I tell you to touch. Catalog everything mentally. Questions come after we're back outside." I sealed the suit, checked the respirator twice. Martinez led me up the concrete walkway, past 2 more men loading sealed black bags into the nearest van. They nodded to Martinez but said nothing. At the front door, Martinez stopped. "First rule, what happens inside stays inside. Second rule, if you see something you don't understand, point it out but don't touch it. Third rule, there's no fourth rule because nobody who breaks the first 3 lives long enough to need it." He pulled on his respirator and motioned for me to do the same. The filtered air tasted like plastic and metal. The front door opened into a living room that looked like something from a war zone. Furniture overturned, walls spattered with dark brown stains that I recognized immediately as dried blood. The copper penny smell leaked through even the respirator filters. 2 techs were removing sections of drywall where the stains were heaviest. Another photographed the room methodically, capturing every angle before wiping the camera's memory card and starting again. 7 residents, Martinez said, voice slightly muffled through his mask. 2 parents, 3 children, grandmother, uncle, all dead. Found at 3:15 this morning by county police responding to a neighbor's 911 call about screaming. I'd seen combat deaths, IED aftermaths, villages after Taliban reprisals. This was different. The blood patterns showed violence I couldn't attribute to conventional weapons. Some stains formed perfect circles. Others created geometric patterns no splatter could naturally produce. Martinez led me through a hallway where more techs were removing carpet in precise 1-foot squares, cataloging each before sealing them in evidence bags. "What killed these people?" I asked. Martinez didn't answer immediately. He led me to what had been the dining room. A laptop sat open on a table beside a digital projector aimed at a bare wall. He gestured for me to sit while he connected a portable hard drive. "You need context," he said, typing commands. "This is security footage from the home system. The timestamp reads 9:43 p.m. to 11:17 p.m. We're erasing it after this viewing." The projection showed a family at dinner. Normal scene, parents serving food, children talking, elderly woman smiling. Then the image flickered. The front door opened without anyone approaching it. The footage jumped, a common glitch in cheaper systems. When the image stabilized, something stood in the dining room entrance. The figure looked vaguely human, but wrong in ways that defied immediate analysis. Too tall, joints bending at impossible angles. Its skin rippled like liquid under light. The family froze in their seats. The creature, because it couldn't be called a person, made no threatening move. It simply stood. The father rose slowly, mouth moving in what appeared to be questions or demands. "No audio?" I asked. "Not necessary," Martinez said. "Watch." The father approached the figure cautiously, then stopped. His body went rigid. He turned back toward his family, picked up a carving knife from the table, and began methodically killing them. The grandmother first, then the uncle. The mother tried to shield the children. The footage showed her mouth open in a scream as her husband's knife found her throat. I couldn't look away. The father's movements were mechanical, his face blank. The creature hadn't touched him, hadn't needed to. After the family lay motionless, the father placed the knife against his own throat. The creature finally moved then, approaching with that wrong-jointed gait. It reached out, touching the father's forehead. He collapsed. The footage jumped again. When it resumed, 3 people in tactical gear had entered. They moved with military precision, weapons raised. The creature turned. One of the tactical team, a man with a small scar above his right eyebrow, suddenly straightened. His weapon swung toward his partners. "That's Henry Collins," Martinez said quietly. "Hunter Division, 17 years experience." On screen, Collins fired 3 rounds into the partner on his left. The third team member returned fire, hitting the creature multiple times. It staggered but didn't fall. Collins put his weapon under his own chin and pulled the trigger. The last hunter emptied a magazine into the creature. It moved with blurring speed despite its wounds, reaching the hunter in 2 impossible strides. What it did next made me glad there was no audio. Martinez stopped the footage. Model 47. Genetic experiment gone wrong. Controls minds through direct visual contact. This one escaped containment 3 days ago. Killed 12 people across 3 locations before the hunters caught up. I stared at the frozen image. This is what urban sanitation cleans up? We're not urban sanitation. Martinez disconnected the hard drive. That's just the cover. We clean up after anomalies, things that shouldn't exist but do. Things the public can't know about without causing mass panic. He stood, leading me back to the hallway. Hunters eliminate the threats. We remove all evidence they existed. The family died in a murder-suicide after the father had a psychotic break. Gas leak explanation for any neighbors who heard strange noises. That's the official report. In the master bedroom, techs were removing floorboards. Dark fluid had seeped between them, not blood. Something clear with a faint blue sheen. Biosignature material, Martinez explained, noticing my gaze. Anomalies leave traces. We remove everything. Replace it with conventional evidence that supports the cover story. We spent the next hour collecting samples, removing contaminated materials, cataloging and replacing everything the creature had touched. Martinez showed me how to identify anomalous residue using a handheld scanner that measured radiation at frequencies I'd never heard of. In the basement, we found more bodies. Previous victims the creature had stored. The remains showed precise surgical alterations that made my stomach turn, despite everything I'd seen overseas. Why hasn't the government eliminated these things completely? I asked, as we sealed the last containment bag. Martinez's tired eyes held mine through our face shields. Who says it was the government that made them? We worked 6 more hours, replacing carpets, repainting walls, installing new fixtures identical to the ones we'd removed. Another team brought in bodies from the morgue. Close matches to the family members, altered to support the murder-suicide narrative. By early afternoon, 421 Oakwood Drive looked perfectly normal again. No evidence remained of Model 47 or its victims. The vans departed one by one until only Martinez and I remained. He removed his hazmat suit methodically, showing me the proper disposal procedure. "Questions," he said, not asking if I had any, telling me it was time to ask them. "How many of these anomalies exist?" More than we've cataloged, fewer than we fear. And my job is to help cover them up? Martinez folded his clipboard under his arm. Your job is to protect people from truths they can't handle. 7 billion people sleep better not knowing what's out there. He checked his watch. Debriefing at the facility in 2 hours. Garcia will want your initial assessment. He started toward his vehicle, then stopped. Patterson, one more thing. He turned back. Nobody takes this job without wondering if they're on the right side. Ask yourself this. If that thing had escaped, how many more families would be having dinner right now, not knowing what was about to walk through their door? I watched him drive away, then looked back at the house. Through the window, I could see new family photos on the walls, manufactured evidence of lives that had existed yesterday and were now being systematically erased. In the Marines, I'd had a clear enemy, clear objectives. This was different. I was part of something both necessary and terrible, lying to protect, erasing to preserve. I started my truck and pulled away from 421 Oakwood Drive, already composing the mental report I would give Garcia. Whatever doubts I had, I'd keep to myself for now. The agency needed people who could handle the truth. Maybe that's why they'd recruited me. Daniel handed me a chemical sprayer with a modified nozzle. Start at the ceiling and work down. Continuous pressure. Move in 6-inch passes like you're mowing a lawn. The liquid inside had the consistency of water but smelled like metal and something else I couldn't place. Sweet, but chemical. The modified sprayer shot an ultraviolet reactive mist that revealed invisible splatter patterns across the dining room ceiling. Biosignature material, Daniel said, watching me work. Every anomaly leaves traces unique to its composition. 47 leaves this particular residue wherever it makes physical contact. I maintained even pressure on the sprayer, watching the mist reveal geometric patterns that no natural splatter could create. Perfect hexagons and concentric circles where the creature had touched surfaces. How long has the agency been dealing with these things? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Daniel checked something on his scanner before answering. Officially, since 1947. Unofficially, probably always. He marked a section of wall with blue tape. We'll need to remove this section entirely. The material has penetrated the drywall. The house felt both ordinary and profoundly wrong. Family photos still hung on walls. Mail sat unopened on a side table. A child's backpack leaned against the stairs. Everyday life interrupted by something impossible. We worked methodically through each room. Daniel demonstrated how to identify contaminated materials, how to catalog evidence before removing it, how to maintain chain of custody for samples. The process felt familiar, military precision applied to civilian space. The father, I said as we sealed floorboards from the living room. How did it control him without touching him? Daniel's hands never stopped working while he spoke. Visual cortex manipulation. 47 emits a frequency that overrides normal brain function. Direct eye contact means complete control. He placed the sealed boards into a containment bag. That's why Hunter Collins died. Broke protocol, looked directly at it. I thought about the dead Hunter from the security footage, how quickly he'd turned on his own team. And the other Hunter? The one who emptied his magazine into it? Lisa Reeves, 10 years experience. Knew to use peripheral vision only. He paused. Didn't help her in the end. 2 techs entered with replacement drywall sections chemically aged to match the existing walls. They worked silently, efficiently. One nodded to Daniel but said nothing. Hunters deal with the anomalies, I said. We clean up after. What other divisions exist? Containment handles secure transport and storage. Research studies captured specimens. Intelligence tracks emergence patterns. Administration keeps the lights on and handles cover stories. Daniel handed me a different scanner. Check the basement steps for residual signature. The scanner detected trace amounts on the 3rd and 7th steps. We removed both completely. In the basement, the traces grew stronger. Daniel directed me to a corner where the concrete floor had cracked. The scanner readings peaked. "This is where 47 tried to nest," he said. "They established safe zones for feeding and reproduction." We used handheld jackhammers to break out the entire corner section. Beneath the concrete, something glistened, a clear substance with blue iridescence, like oil on water, but thicker. "Don't touch it directly," Daniel warned. "Even with gloves, use the collection tools." I scooped the substance into specialized containers with extendable handles. The material moved almost with purpose, seeming to resist collection. "What happens to all this evidence?" I asked, sealing the final container. "Most gets incinerated at 2,000 degrees. Some goes to research. None of it exists in any official record." Daniel checked his watch. 6 more hours and we'll be finished here." We replaced flooring, repainted walls, switched out light fixtures that had been contaminated. Another team brought in furniture matches for pieces we'd removed. By early afternoon, the house looked untouched, a perfect recreation of what had existed before. A tech I hadn't seen before entered with a folder. "Backstory documentation," he told Daniel. "Standard murder-suicide narrative. Father's medical record showing psychotic episode history. Modified autopsy reports." Daniel nodded. "Plant them according to protocol. County records updated?" "Completed an hour ago. Local medical examiner signed off." The tech departed without further comment. "The family's relatives," I said. "Friends, people who knew them. How do you handle that?" Daniel's expression didn't change. "Administration has teams for that. Memory modification for close contacts, distance management for others." He picked up his clipboard. "You don't need details on that part yet." At 3:40, we conducted final scans of the entire property. All traces of anomalous material had been removed. The replacement bodies had been positioned to match the murder-suicide narrative. The house was clean, sterile of truth. Daniel signed off on the final checklist. "Facility debrief in 90 minutes. Garcia will want your initial assessment." We drove separately back to the facility, an unmarked 6-story building in an industrial park outside Baltimore. The reception area looked like any government office, but the elevator required Daniel's badge plus a retinal scan. Sub-level 3 housed debriefing rooms. Garcia waited in one, the same manila folder from yesterday placed precisely at the center of the table. "Mr. Patterson," he said, gesturing to a chair, "your first operational experience was unusual. We don't typically expose new recruits to model-class anomalies on day 1. I sat across from him. Daniel took a chair by the wall, silent. "I managed," I said. Garcia nodded slightly. "Martinez reports you maintained composure and followed protocol precisely. That's good." He opened the folder. "However, protocol also dictates a full psychological assessment after exposure to Class M anomalies." A woman in a lab coat entered, carrying a tablet. She introduced herself as Dr. Winters and explained she would conduct a standard evaluation while I completed my debriefing. The questions came rapid fire from both of them. My emotional state, my understanding of what I'd witnessed, my ability to compartmentalize, my commitment to operational security. I answered truthfully but carefully. Yes, I'd been shocked by what I saw. No, I wouldn't discuss it with anyone outside the agency. Yes, I understood the importance of containment protocols. Dr. Winters studied me throughout, making occasional notes on her tablet. After 20 minutes, she nodded to Garcia and left without comment. "You've been cleared for continued operations," Garcia said, making a notation in the folder. "Your next assignment will be tomorrow. Standard cleanup, not an active containment situation." He closed the folder. "Questions?" I had dozens, but settled on the most immediate. "How common are these anomalies?" "Uncommon enough that most people never encounter one. Common enough that we maintain 17 field teams nationwide." Garcia's expression remained neutral. "Most are less dangerous than what you saw today. Type B biological variants, Type C predator class. The model series are rare, fewer than 1% of total anomalies." And they all require this level of cleanup? Yes. Public exposure to anomalous entities would create mass panic, religious upheaval, governmental instability. He straightened his tie. 7 billion people sleep better not knowing what exists in the margins of reality. The justification sounded rehearsed. I wondered how many new recruits he'd given the same speech to. One last thing, Garcia said, reaching into a drawer. He removed an envelope and slid it across the table. Your compensation for today's operation, 12 hours at contracted rate, plus hazard differential for Class M exposure. I opened the envelope. The check inside showed more money than I'd made in 2 weeks as a squad leader. Direct deposit begins with your next assignment, Garcia continued. Banking information is being processed. He stood, our meeting clearly concluded. Martinez will be your permanent trainer until you're cleared for solo operations, typically 8 to 12 weeks. Daniel walked me to the elevator. As the doors closed, he finally spoke again. First day's the hardest, he said. Knowing changes everything. You can't unknow it. I nodded. In Afghanistan, we had this saying, the truth doesn't set you free. It just gives you different nightmares. Daniel's laugh held no humor. Wait until you see what's in those nightmares now. Outside, early evening sun slanted across the parking lot. I sat in my truck for several minutes, the check in my hand feeling simultaneously like compensation and bribe. The world looked exactly the same as it had yesterday, but now contained impossibilities. I started the engine. Whatever came next, I was committed now. The paycheck mattered, but something else had taken root during those hours in the house, a sense of purpose I'd been missing since leaving the service. If these things existed, someone needed to handle them. Better people who could face the truth than those who couldn't. I pulled out of the parking lot, heading home to prepare for tomorrow's assignment. Another anomaly, another cleanup, another day of protecting people from truths they weren't equipped to handle. The call came at 4:17 in the morning. My phone buzzed twice on the nightstand before I registered what was happening. Patterson, I answered, already reaching for the pants I'd draped over my desk chair. Emergency response. Frederick, Maryland. Daniel's voice, no preamble. 300 Willowbrook Lane, farmhouse property. I'll pick you up in 20 minutes. I dressed in the dark, black cargo pants, agency-issued boots, long-sleeve shirt. The boots still felt new, stiff at the ankles. 3 days since the Model 47 cleanup, and I'd spent most of that time reviewing procedure manuals and equipment catalogs from the orientation packet Garcia had provided. Daniel's unmarked van pulled up at exactly 4:40. He handed me a coffee and a steel travel mug as I climbed in. Active scene, he said, merging onto the highway. Hunters still on site. The coffee tasted like it had been sitting on a burner since midnight. I drank it anyway. What's the anomaly? I asked. Type C Predator class. Got the call 90 minutes ago. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. 4 confirmed civilian casualties. Family that owned the property. The highway stretched empty ahead, our headlights catching occasional reflectors in the asphalt. Daniel drove 10 miles over the speed limit, not enough to attract attention. Type C, I repeated. That's different from what we handled before? Model series are intelligent. Type C are instinct-driven. Think of them as apex predators that shouldn't exist. Daniel checked his mirrors. This one resembles a dog from the initial report, large canine with some anatomical divergences. We turned off the highway onto county roads, then secondary routes. The landscape changed from suburbs to farmland, open fields dotted with isolated properties. Dawn hadn't broken yet, but the eastern sky had begun to lighten behind the tree line. How many operations do you typically run in a week? I asked. Depends. Some weeks nothing. Record was 11 in 9 days during that chemical spill cover in Pittsburgh 2 years back. Daniel slowed as we approached a gravel drive. Farmhouse should be about a mile up this road. The property came into view around a bend. Two-story white farmhouse with a wraparound porch, detached barn 50 yards to the right. 3 black SUVs were parked in a semicircle near the front steps. Portable lights on stands illuminated the yard with harsh white glare. Daniel parked behind the vehicles and handed me a tactical vest from behind his seat. Standard issue. Wear it when hunters are active on site. The vest weighed 14 pounds with the ceramic plates inserted. I adjusted the straps while following Daniel across the gravel. Morning dew had dampened the grass, soaking the cuffs of my pants as we crossed the yard. A woman emerged from the farmhouse front door. Athletic build, dark hair pulled back tight, eyes that registered everything in a single sweep. She wore tactical gear with modifications I didn't recognize. Extra pockets, reinforced joints, specialized holsters. The patch on her shoulder showed a stylized hunter's bow. "Martinez," she acknowledged Daniel with a nod. "This the new cleanup guy?" "Patterson," Daniel replied. "Marines, 3 tours Afghanistan. Second operation." She assessed me quickly, professionally. "Maria Thompson, Hunter Division." Her handshake was brief, precise. "My partner, Samuel, is inside securing the lower level." "Containment status?" Daniel asked. "Anomaly cornered in the basement. 3 primary targets in the main house fully processed. 4th in the barn still needs documentation." She turned to me. "Ever seen a Type C active?" "No," I said. "Just aftermath of a Model 47 3 days ago." Something flickered across her expression. Surprise or respect, I couldn't tell which. 47 on your first op? That's baptism by fire." She checked her watch. "We're moving on the basement target in 7 minutes. You can observe the process from the kitchen entry if you maintain 15-foot minimum distance." A man appeared in the doorway behind her. Tall, light brown hair, easy smile that didn't match the alert eyes scanning the yard. He carried what looked like a modified thermal imaging device. "Basement's sealed," he announced. "Heat signature consistent with Type C7. Estimated 220 pounds, maintaining position in the northwest corner." He noticed me. "New guy?" "Samuel Brooks," Maria said. "Meet Joshua Patterson. He's on Daniel's cleanup team." Samuel's handshake was firmer than Maria's, more casual. "Sorry about the mess inside. These C classes don't go down easy." He grinned. "Still better than that 47 last week, though. Heard you caught that aftermath." "Word travels," I noted. "Small agency," Samuel replied. "Plus, nobody gets thrown into a 47 cleanup their first day unless they impressed somebody." Maria checked her weapon, a modified sidearm with an extended magazine. "Samuel, get the specialized rounds from the truck. Patterson, you can come inside, but stay with Daniel. This isn't contained yet." The farmhouse interior smelled like copper and something else. Musty, animal. Blood trails led from the front hallway into what had been a living room. 3 bodies lay covered with black tarps, evidence markers placed around them. "Family of 4, Daniel explained quietly. "Parents, 2 teenage children. Father's body is in the barn where he tried to escape. Predator caught him halfway across the yard." Maria and Samuel moved with practiced efficiency, checking equipment while communicating in shorthand phrases. Samuel loaded specialized ammunition into magazines, rounds with blue-tipped bullets I hadn't seen before. "Anti-regenerative compounds," Daniel explained, noticing my attention. "Type Cs heal rapidly. Regular bullets just make them angry." Maria approached us, checking a tablet showing the house layout. "We're making entry through the kitchen access. Anomaly is cornered but still dangerous. Maintain your distance until we give all clear." I followed Daniel to the kitchen where a door stood open, revealing stairs descending into darkness. Portable lights had been set up at the top of the stairwell, illuminating just enough to see the first few steps. The basement beyond remained black. Samuel joined us, thermal scanner in one hand, modified carbine in the other. Heat signature still static. Probably wounded from the initial engagement with local police. Local police encountered it? I asked Daniel quietly. First responders. 2 officers injured, not fatally. Administration is handling their debriefing. Maria positioned herself at the top of the stairs, weapon ready. Samuel takes point. I'll cover rear. Standard Containment Protocol 6. Samuel nodded, all casual demeanor gone now. He attached the thermal device to his weapon's rail system and moved to the stairs. 15 seconds, Maria said, then to us. Close the kitchen door behind us. Do not open until you hear the all clear. They descended into the darkness, moving with deliberate steps. Daniel pulled the basement door closed once they disappeared from view. Now we wait, he said, checking his watch. 3 minutes passed in silence. Then came the sounds. Movement below. A low growl that didn't sound like any dog I'd heard before. Gunshots echoed up through the floorboards. 3 quick reports followed by 2 more. Something shrieked. The sound crawled up my spine, high-pitched but simultaneously deep, like 2 voices layered. A heavy impact shook dust from the ceiling fixtures. Standard engagement, Daniel commented, checking a scanner from his vest pocket. Biosignature readings are elevated but contained to the basement level. More gunshots, then silence. 2 minutes later, Maria's voice called up, "Clear! Containment successful! Bringing up the package." Daniel opened the door. Maria emerged first, a smear of dark fluid across her tactical vest. Not blood. Something clearer with a faint bluish tint, similar to what I'd seen at the Model 47 site. Samuel followed, carrying a sealed containment unit resembling a heavy-duty body bag with reinforced straps and monitoring equipment attached to its exterior. Whatever lay inside didn't move. Type C 7 neutralized, Maria reported, her breathing only slightly elevated. Approximately 230 pounds, standard morphology with secondary jaw structure, bullet expenditure, 14 specialized rounds. Cleanup requirements? Daniel asked. Full basement sterilization, biosignature contamination throughout the northwest corner, evidence of feeding behavior with the second victim. She nodded toward the containment unit Samuel was securing. We'll transport the specimen to research. I studied the containment unit. Something about the shape inside seemed wrong, longer than a large dog should be, with protrusions at odd angles. Patterson, Daniel said, get the baseline equipment from the van. We'll start with standard biosignature removal procedures. As I crossed the yard to retrieve our gear, I passed Samuel loading the containment unit into one of the SUVs. First time seeing a takedown? He asked, securing the straps. Yes. He patted the unit. Type Cs aren't the worst out there. Nasty but predictable. They hunt, they feed, they nest. No mind games like 47. He closed the SUV's rear door. This is actually routine for us. 2, maybe 3 of these monthly across the eastern seaboard. Routine, I repeated. Samuel checked his weapon before holstering it. Well, as routine as hunting monsters gets. You get used to it. He grinned suddenly. Until you don't. And then you're dead. I returned to the house with our equipment. Specialized cleaning agents, scanners, replacement materials. Daniel had already begun documenting the scene, photographing blood patterns before we erased them. Maria stood in the kitchen drinking from a water bottle, making notes on her tablet. She looked up as I entered. Patterson, she said. Daniel says you handled the 47 cleanup well. Not everyone can process that kind of scene their first time out. Military experience helps, I replied. She nodded. 3 tours, he said. Afghanistan? Helmand province, mostly. Sometime in Kandahar. I was Army. 2 tours Iraq. She capped her water bottle. Different enemy, same skill set. Pay attention to detail, follow procedure, compartmentalize. It explained her bearing, the economy of movement, the way she constantly assessed sight lines and exits. The anomaly, I said. You've encountered this type before? Type Cs? Dozens of times. They're one of our more common categories. She put away her tablet. Think of them as invasive species. They establish territories, hunt, occasionally breed if we don't catch them quickly enough. Samuel returned, carrying equipment cases from their vehicle. Telling war stories already, Maria? Sharing operational context, she corrected, but her expression softened slightly. When you're done with cleanup, Samuel said, we usually debrief at Denny's off Highway 70. Decent coffee, private booth in back. You're welcome to join if Garcia doesn't have you scheduled elsewhere. Maria nodded agreement. Helps to discuss while it's fresh, especially early in your tenure. They departed 20 minutes later, the containment unit secured for transport to whatever facility housed Research Division. The farmhouse felt different after they left. Quieter, but somehow less threatening despite the covered bodies still waiting for processing. Daniel and I worked methodically through the scene, starting with biosignature detection and removal. The basement required complete decontamination. The anomaly had left traces on every surface, concentrated in the corner where it had tried to establish what Maria called a feeding nest. What happens to the bodies? I asked as we sealed contaminated flooring into evidence bags. Replaced with duplicates, modified to match identification records, Daniel explained. Autopsy will show animal attack. Local wildlife will be blamed, coyotes or feral dogs. Administration already has the cover story prepared for local media. We worked through the morning and into afternoon. The process felt more structured than the Model 47 cleanup, less frantic, more methodical. By 2:30, we had removed all traces of anomalous material and prepared the scene for the cover story team. We're finished here, Daniel said, checking his scanner one final time. Baseline readings normal, biosignature neutralized. He removed his gloves. Want to hit that diner Maria mentioned? Debriefing helps process what you've seen. I nodded, suddenly aware I hadn't eaten since the previous night. Daniel packed our equipment while I made a final sweep of the property. The farmhouse stood silent. Blood cleaned away, evidence removed. 4 people had died here, killed by something impossible. By tomorrow, the official record would show a tragic animal attack. The creature responsible never captured. I thought about what Samuel had said. This was routine for them, 2 or 3 monthly just in this region. How many similar scenes played out across the country, across the world, and how many worse things like Model 47 remained active, unseen? The agency maintained 17 field teams nationwide, Garcia had said. Now I understood why. I returned to the van where Daniel waited. Another operation completed. Another truth erased. Routine for this line of work. Let's go, I said. I could use that coffee. The Denny's off Highway 70 sat back from the road, surrounded by a half-empty parking lot. Late afternoon sun reflected off the windows, turning them into mirrors. Inside smelled like coffee and industrial-grade cleaner. Samuel waved us over to a corner booth far from other customers. The vinyl seats were cracked along the seams, patched with clear tape that had yellowed over time. Maria had already claimed one side, Samuel beside her. 3 coffee mugs steamed on the table. Told Janice we needed the quiet corner, Samuel said as we approached. She knows we're government and doesn't ask questions. Daniel slid in opposite them. I took the spot next to him, noting the calculated positioning, hunters facing the entrance, cleanup crew with backs to the door. Old habits. A waitress arrived with a 4th coffee and menus. Her name tag read Janice in faded print. She had the practiced efficiency of someone who'd been serving tables for decades. Specials meatloaf, she said, refilling Samuel's mug without being asked. Soup's chicken noodle. Pie's decent. Thanks, Janice, Samuel replied with practiced charm. Give us 5. She nodded and retreated, leaving us alone in our corner. I wrapped my hands around the mug, feeling warmth seep into fingers still stiff from hours of wearing nitrile gloves. The coffee tasted better than it smelled, dark and strong with a hint of cinnamon. So, Samuel broke the silence. Patterson's first Type C. What did you think of our ugly Maryland mutt? Didn't see much of it, I answered. Just the containment bag. Maria stirred her coffee methodically. Be grateful. C7s aren't pleasant up close. Secondary jaw structure means dual feeding paths. Primary for initial capture, secondary for processing. Like a waste disposal unit with teeth, Samuel added, making a grinding motion with his hand, though this one was on the small side. Had a C7 in Virginia last year that weighed 340 pounds. Daniel opened a small notebook. Standard debrief protocol. Biosignature readings from the basement peaked at 7.3 on the Landau scale. Residual patterns consistent with a 3-week nesting period. Makes sense, Maria said. Missing pets reported in that area started 18 days ago. 3 dogs, 2 cats from surrounding properties. I listened, observing how they moved between professional assessment and casual conversation. These weren't hardened government agents from a movie, just people doing an impossible job, finding ways to normalize it. Samuel ate a French fry from a basket the waitress had silently delivered while Daniel was speaking. The crazy part is how nobody connects the dots. 4-legged predator killing people, pets disappearing, weird noises at night, and everyone just assumes coyotes or mountain lions. People rationalize, Daniel said. They fit unexplainable things into explainable categories. Maria looked up from her coffee. Patterson, 3 tours Afghanistan, you said? I nodded. 2 in Helmand, 1 in Kandahar, Marines. Army, 2 in Iraq, she replied. Which unit? 1st Battalion, 8th Marines initially, later attached to 5th Regiment. Something shifted in her expression, recognition of shared experience. Forward deployed? Usually. I took a sip of coffee. Patrol routes, village security, occasional QRF when things went sideways. She nodded slightly. The conversation contained more in what wasn't said than what was. Military shorthand, the acknowledged understanding that some details didn't need explaining. How'd you end up with the agency? I asked. Her fingers tightened fractionally around her mug. My brother was killed by an anomaly 5 years ago in Chicago. Official report called it a gas line explosion in his apartment building. 17 people died. Samuel's usual smirk faded. He'd clearly heard this before, but still respected its weight. I was working private security, Maria continued. Started asking questions about inconsistencies in the report. Gas explosions leave specific patterns. What I saw in that building wasn't right. She paused, took a deliberate sip of coffee. A month later, Garcia approached me, said if I wanted answers, there was a position available. I had the background they needed and personal motivation. The vulnerability in her last words felt significant, a crack in the professional armor she maintained. What was it? I asked. The anomaly? Type F incorporeal. Her voice flattened. Feeds on electrical impulses from human brains. Manifests through existing electrical systems. Lights flicker, appliances malfunction, then it emerges. By the time hunters arrived, it had already consumed most of the building's occupants. The diner's fluorescent lights suddenly seemed ominous overhead. I pushed the thought away. Classification system seems complicated, I said. Daniel nodded. 7 primary categories, multiple subcategories. Types A through G, with numeric designations for variants within each type. Plus, the model series, Samuel added through a mouthful of fries. Those are special cases, numbered 1 through 57 so far. The higher the number, the more dangerous? I asked. Not exactly, Daniel explained. Models are classified by complexity and unusual properties. Model 47 is dangerous because of its mind control abilities, not necessarily its physical threat level. Maria set her mug down with precision. C-classes are manageable. Predator instincts make them predictable. Most hunter teams can handle them with standard protocols. She paused. The models require specialized approaches. Each one is unique. Like 47, I said. Like 47, she confirmed. Visual cortex manipulation, perfect physical mimicry of human behavior until it chooses to reveal itself. That's why it killed so many before containment. Samuel tapped his fork against his plate. Models usually have agency, planning capability. They think. C-classes just hunt. Janice returned to take our orders. The conversation paused until she departed. How do you adjust? I asked Maria when we were alone again. After military service. To this. She considered the question longer than I expected. Military work has purpose, clear objectives, defined enemies. When you leave service, that structure disappears. She met my eyes directly. The agency restored that structure for me. Different enemy, same principles. Plus, we get paid better, Samuel interjected with a grin. And no sand in uncomfortable places. Maria's expression softened fractionally. Samuel was FBI before this, Behavioral Analysis Unit. Spent 3 years tracking serial killers, he confirmed. Turns out tracking anomalies uses similar skill sets. Pattern recognition, behavioral prediction, anticipating the next move. I glanced at Daniel. And you? Environmental sciences originally, he answered. Specialized in hazardous materials management. Agency recruited me after a chemical spill in Oregon turned out to be anomalous residue. Our food arrived. The conversation shifted to procedural matters. Equipment maintenance, report filing protocols, chain of command within different divisions. The normality of discussing bureaucratic details while eating burgers felt almost surreal given what we'd witnessed hours earlier. Patterson, Maria said as we were finishing. You handled yourself well today. Maintained distance, followed protocol, no unnecessary questions during active containment. 3 tours teaches situational awareness, I replied. She nodded. Next time we have a Type C operation, I might request you specifically for cleanup detail. Some of these containments get complicated. Having personnel who understand tactical priorities helps. She reached into her pocket and removed a small card with a phone number written in precise handwriting. My direct line. Agency comms go through official channels, but sometimes direct contact is faster. I took the card, noting it contained only the number. No name, no agency identification. Appreciate it, I said, tucking it into my wallet. Samuel raised his eyebrows at Maria but said nothing. The exchange clearly wasn't standard procedure. We settled the bill. Samuel insisted on leaving a 25% tip and walked to the parking lot as evening settled over the highway. Samuel and Maria departed first in their agency SUV, heading back to whatever facility housed the Hunter Division. Daniel and I stood by his van for a moment, watching taillights disappear down the highway. That was unexpected, he said finally. What was? Maria giving you her direct contact. He unlocked the van. She doesn't do that often. Must have seen something in you she considers valuable. I thought about our brief conversation about military service, the look in her eyes when discussing her brother. Shared background, maybe, I suggested. Daniel shrugged. Maybe. Or she's assembling resources for something specific. He climbed into the driver's seat. I'll drop you at the facility so you can retrieve your truck. The drive back was quiet. I watched the darkening landscape and thought about how quickly this had become my new normal. Classified cleanup operations. Hunters tracking impossible creatures, fabricated cover stories replacing terrifying truths. 2 weeks ago, I'd been struggling to find minimum wage security work. Now I helped erase evidence of things that shouldn't exist. The transition should have felt more jarring than it did. Daniel dropped me at the parking facility where my truck waited. Rest up, he said. Garcia will contact you with the next assignment. Could be tomorrow, could be next week. I nodded. I'll be ready. Driving home, I realized I was beginning to understand the structure of this new world, the agency's mission, the divisions of responsibility, my place within the machinery. It felt familiar, reminiscent of military hierarchies, but with higher stakes and stranger enemies. The card with Maria's number rested in my wallet, a small vote of confidence from someone who'd walked a similar path. I wondered what kind of operation would prompt her to use it. My apartment looked the same as I'd left it that morning. Sparse furnishings, military neat bed, few personal touches, but the world it existed in had shifted again, expanded to include new possibilities and dangers. I checked the locks twice before sleeping, an old habit with new relevance. Tomorrow might bring another call, another cleanup, another glimpse of what lurked beyond ordinary perception. For the first time since leaving the service, that uncertainty felt like purpose. I developed a rhythm over those first 2 weeks. Garcia would text an address and time, always from different numbers. Daniel would meet me on site. We'd clean, document, and disappear before civilian authorities arrived with their flawed explanations. 6 operations completed. 2 Type C predators in suburban areas. 1 Type B residual in an abandoned factory. 3 minor containment protocols involving what Daniel called atmospheric anomalies. Invisible disturbances that warped local physics in measurable, dangerous ways. Between assignments, I studied the procedural manuals Garcia had provided, equipment catalogs, containment protocols, chain of evidence documentation. My apartment floor accumulated coffee rings on instruction manuals with classifications I hadn't been cleared to see 2 weeks earlier. On a Wednesday morning between assignments, Daniel asked me to deliver replacement scanner equipment to the Hunter Division. The box weighed 17 pounds and smelled faintly of machine oil. "3rd floor, technical operations," Daniel said, handing me an access card. "Drop it with requisitions and get a signature from whoever's on desk duty." The agency's downtown facility occupied 6 stories above ground, 4 below. Nothing distinguished it from surrounding government buildings, just another unremarkable structure in a city full of them. The lobby featured the standard metal detectors, board security guards, and uncomfortable seating designed to discourage visitors from lingering. I took the elevator to 3, holding the equipment box against my chest. The corridor stretched in both directions, unmarked doors at regular intervals. Signs indicating technical operations led me right, then left through a series of badge access checkpoints. The final door opened to a room filled with equipment racks, weapons cases, and specialized gear I didn't recognize. Nobody staffed the reception desk. Voices echoed from an adjoining room, the door partially open. I set the box down and approached to announce my presence. That's when I heard Samuel's voice, tense in a way I hadn't heard before. 18 months without a trace. Could be anywhere by now. Maria's response came lower, controlled. Intelligence tracked biosignatures matching N26 in 3 cities last quarter. Nothing confirmed. Because nobody who confirms contact survives to report it. Samuel's chair creaked as he shifted. 3 hunters during initial capture, 2 scientists during examination, 4 security personnel during transport. I should have announced myself. I didn't. Instead, I moved closer to the doorway, maintaining sight lines to the corridor in case someone approached. Through the gap, I saw Maria standing beside a wall-mounted screen displaying what appeared to be a case file. Samuel sat at a desk, fingers drumming against a tablet. A red folder marked N26 lay open between them. "Perfect mimicry is what makes it so dangerous," Maria said. "Complete human appearance, behavior, speech patterns, undetectable until it chooses to reveal itself. And then it's too late." Samuel's drumming stopped. The speed alone makes containment nearly impossible. Add the strength factor and... "I know the capabilities, Samuel." Maria's voice carried the weight of someone who'd studied this file too many times. "I've reviewed the footage weekly since reassignment. Sorry." Samuel rubbed his face with both hands. Anniversary's got me on edge. 18 months since Wilkins' team disappeared during transport. 3 good hunters, gone. Maria touched the screen, enlarging an image I couldn't quite see. Intelligence believes it's planning something. The pattern of appearances suggests. The floor creaked beneath my shoe. Both heads turned toward the door. I'd been made. Maria's expression shifted from surprise to something unreadable. She straightened, squared her shoulders. Patterson, how long have you been standing there? No point lying to hunters. About 90 seconds. Came to deliver replacement scanners. I expected anger, perhaps a security violation report. Instead, Maria glanced at Samuel, who gave a slight nod. Come in, she said. Close the door. The room contained 3 workstations, wall-mounted displays, and equipment that resembled tactical planning tools. The temperature ran 5 degrees cooler than the hallway. Air conditioning hummed steadily from ceiling vents. You've been with us 2 weeks now, Maria said, studying my face. Completed 6 operations according to your file. Yes. Handled Type Cs, Type Bs, and minor atmospheric anomalies. She looked at Samuel again, some unspoken communication passing between them. No models yet, except the 47 Aftermath. I nodded, keeping my posture neutral. Just following assignment protocols. Samuel leaned back, arms crossed. What did you hear? Something called N26. Perfect human mimicry. Killed hunters during capture and transport 18 months ago. Currently uncontained. Maria's fingers tapped a pattern against her thigh. 3 short, 2 long. A nervous habit or some kind of code, I couldn't tell. Daniels vouched for your discretion, she said finally, and your security clearance covers basic knowledge of uncontained threats. She turned to the screen. Want to see what we're up against? Before I could answer, she touched the display. The screen shifted to security footage, high-resolution black and white, time-stamped 18 months earlier. The view showed a secure transport corridor with reinforced walls and multiple checkpoints. This is classified Level 4, Maria said. Recorded at Containment Facility 7 during transport of N26 from holding to permanent containment. The footage showed 4 armed guards escorting what appeared to be a woman in her 30s. Standard prisoner transport protocols, handcuffs, leg restraints, 2 guards in front, 2 behind. The woman's face remained passive, eyes forward. Subject appears fully human, Maria narrated. Biosignatures at this point read as 97% match to human baseline. The 3% variance went undetected by standard scanners. On screen, the group approached a security checkpoint. 1 guard stepped forward to input an access code. The woman's posture changed. A subtle shift in weight distribution, almost imperceptible. Watch her eyes, Samuel said quietly. I did. They moved, tracking the guards, the camera positions, the checkpoint door mechanisms, calculating. The lead guard turned to verify the prisoner's position. In that split second, everything changed. The woman moved with impossible speed. 1 moment standing restrained, the next behind the rear guard. Her hand drove through his tactical vest into his spine. Blood splattered the wall as she extracted her arm and pivoted toward the others. The guards reacted professionally, weapons raised within 1.7 seconds. Too slow. She crossed the corridor in a blur, snapping the second guard's neck before he could discharge his weapon. The third managed a single shot that struck her shoulder, no effect. She tore his throat out with a motion too fast for the camera to capture clearly. The 4th guard emptied his magazine. I counted 7 impacts across her torso and face. She staggered back 2 steps, then straightened. The bullet holes closed as I watched, healing completely in under 4 seconds. Alarms flashed silently on screen. The woman, N26, looked directly at the camera. Her face remained human, but something in her eyes wasn't. She smiled, then punched through the reinforced door as if it were cardboard. The timestamp showed the entire escape took 8.4 seconds. Maria paused the footage. That door was 3-inch hardened steel with titanium reinforcement, designed to withstand armor-piercing rounds. I absorbed this information, keeping my expression neutral while cataloging the tactical implications. The other hunters you mentioned? Responded to the breach alert, Samuel said. Encountered N-26 in the East Corridor. Specialized ammunition, tactical positioning, everything by the book. He looked away. Facility cameras show the engagement lasted 12 seconds. 3 hunters down. N-26 escaped through maintenance access to the surface. Maria resumed the footage, advancing to show response teams securing the area. Medical personnel pronouncing the guards dead. Cleanup teams I recognized, wearing the same equipment Daniel and I used, documenting and removing evidence. Intelligence believes N-26 has been active in population centers since escape, Maria said. Perfect human mimicry makes tracking nearly impossible without direct scanner contact. Why show me this? I asked. Maria turned off the display. Because you need to understand what we're really facing. Type Cs are dangerous, but manageable. Models like 47 require specialized containment but follow predictable patterns. She gestured to the darkened screen. N-26 represents our greatest failure. Proof that some anomalies may be beyond our ability to contain. Samuel stood, gathering the file materials. Also because you're in this now, Patterson. Field operatives need to know what's out there, especially the threats you won't see coming. I processed this information against my growing understanding of agency operations. Is N-26 a priority target? Highest classification, Maria confirmed. Every hunter team maintains active search protocols. Biosignature scanners are calibrated for detection during all standard operations. And if detected? Full tactical response. All available assets, Samuel said. No containment protocol. Immediate neutralization authorization. The implications settled like a weight. Every other anomaly I'd encountered or studied in the manuals had containment procedures. N-26 warranted only elimination. Maria walked me to the door, her expression thoughtful. Your background gives you perspective most cleanup specialists lack, Patterson. Military experience, combat deployments. You understand threat assessment. At the doorway, she paused. 6 operations in 2 weeks is an accelerated pace. How are you processing? The question caught me off guard. Not the professional assessment I expected, but something more personal. Adapting, I answered honestly. Finding the patterns helps. Procedures, protocols, documentation. She nodded slightly. The structure. Same thing I looked for after leaving service. Her eyes shifted to the room we just left, then back to me. There's a position opening in Hunter Division next month. Garcia mentioned your name during preliminary discussions. I kept my expression neutral despite the surprise. I'm still learning cleanup protocols. Different skill set, same mission. She handed me a signature form for the delivered equipment. Something to consider. I took the form, noting how she'd revealed this information immediately after showing me their most dangerous, uncontained threat. The timing felt deliberate. A test of some kind. I'll think about it, I said. Do that. She pressed her badge against the door sensor. And Patterson? Daniel's a good teacher, but he only knows cleanup perspective. If you want the full picture of what we're facing, my offer for operational briefings stands. I nodded acknowledgement and left, the image of N-26 moving with impossible speed still fresh in my mind. The facility corridors felt different now, the ordinary governmental appearance suddenly thin camouflage over something much darker. Back on the street, I checked my phone. No messages from Garcia or Daniel. No anomalies requiring immediate response. Just normal people moving through their Wednesday routines, unaware of what existed beyond their perception. What I'd just seen redefined the agency's mission in my mind. Not just containment and cleanup, but active defense against threats that could pass undetected among civilian populations. N26 wasn't just another anomaly. It represented something worse that might be out there, watching and waiting. I crossed the street toward the parking garage where my truck waited. 6 operations in 2 weeks had given me a foundation, a basic understanding of this new world. The N26 footage suggested I'd barely scratched the surface. Whatever Maria had seen in my background or performance that prompted mentioning the hunter position, I'd need to consider carefully. Cleanup work maintained distance from active threats. Hunters faced them directly, with consequences I'd just witnessed on that security footage. I drove home with the windows down, letting city noise wash over me. The ordinary world continued around me, oblivious to creatures that violated its fundamental rules. People who would never know how thin the barrier was between their reality and what lurked beyond it. For the first time since joining the agency, I truly understood what Garcia had said during my interview. Some materials we handle have national security implications. Some threats weren't just dangerous. They were existential. Garcia's call came at 5:17 in the morning. The phone vibrated against my nightstand with an unfamiliar urgency. Patterson, downtown staging area, 1 hour, priority operation. His voice carried none of its usual bureaucratic distance. Bring your field kit and sidearm. Understood. Location? Corner of Constitution and 7th. Mobile command vehicle will be visible. A pause. This is a full-scale response, Patterson. All available units. He disconnected before I could ask questions. The mention of my sidearm, standard issue Glock 17 I'd qualified with but never carried on an operation, told me everything I needed about the severity. I packed methodically, field kit with supplementary scanner equipment, agency-issued tactical vest that still smelled like factory packaging, the Glock, which I checked twice before holstering, black BDU pants and boots from my military days that still fit properly. The digital clock on my microwave read 5:49 when I left my apartment. Downtown DC wore early morning emptiness, delivery trucks making rounds, overnight security shifting to day crews, occasional joggers navigating sidewalks. I found the mobile command center exactly where Garcia had described. A converted RV with government plates parked beside 2 unmarked vans. 4 black SUVs formed a perimeter around the staging area. Daniel stood beside the nearest van, checking equipment cases against a tablet inventory. He glanced up as I approached, his expression tighter than usual. Patterson, good. He handed me a comm unit with an earpiece. Channel 3, keep radio discipline. I slipped the device into my ear, hearing the soft background chatter of multiple teams checking in. What's happening? Daniel looked over my shoulder, his attention elsewhere. Intelligence confirmed N26 in the district, multiple biosignature readings over the past 6 hours. The significance settled like lead in my stomach. The agency's most dangerous uncontained anomaly here in the capital. Hunters are primary response, Daniel continued, checking his watch. Sanitation teams supporting for immediate containment were paired with Maria and Samuel today. As if summoned by their names, the 2 hunters emerged from the command vehicle. Maria wore tactical gear I hadn't seen before. Heavier than standard issue with specialized equipment pouches and a thigh holster containing what looked like a modified sidearm. Samuel followed a step behind, checking a tablet, displaying what appeared to be a map grid of downtown. Maria approached us with purposeful strides. Her movements carried the focused precision of someone preparing for combat. I recognized the look from my own deployments, the controlled tension before engaging a known enemy. Patterson, Daniel. She nodded to each of us. You've been briefed? Just the basics, I replied. N26 confirmed in the district. Intel picked up the biosignature at 3:47 this morning near Union Station, Samuel said, joining us. His usual easy demeanor had vanished, replaced by something wary and tight around the eyes. Second reading at 4:20 near the Capitol building. Third at 5:05 near the Air and Space Museum. Moving southwesterly, Maria added, checking her specialized sidearm. Predictive models suggest it's following the mall toward the Potomac. Samuel shifted his weight, glancing toward the command vehicle where more personnel were emerging. 3 hunter teams destroyed already. Everyone who's faced this thing directly is dead. His fingers tapped a rapid pattern against his thigh. Just want that noted for the record. Maria shot him a look, part warning, part concern. We've reviewed the footage, studied its movement patterns and attack vectors. We're better prepared. So was Collins. So was Wilkins's team, Samuel muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Before Maria could respond, Garcia emerged from the command vehicle. He wore the same Navy suit as always, but something in his posture had changed, a heightened alertness in normally bureaucratic movements. He gathered us with a gesture, his voice pitched low. Full operational briefing in 3 minutes. For now, understand this is a Priority 1 response. All resources authorized. He looked directly at me. Patterson, you've seen the N-26 footage. First time deploying against an active model class anomaly. Stay with Daniel. Follow containment protocols exactly. I nodded. Yes, sir. Hunters are primary engagement, Garcia continued. Sanitation teams maintain perimeter control and immediate evidence response. Full media lockdown already implemented. Official story is terror threat assessment, multiple federal agencies responding. A technician approached Garcia with a tablet. He scanned it, then addressed us again. Martinez, Patterson, your role differs from standard procedure. You'll shadow the hunter team directly, maintaining no more than 30 yards separation. Immediate containment is critical with every engagement. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That close to active contact? This anomaly leaves distinct biosignatures wherever it moves, Garcia replied. Every footprint, every surface contact needs immediate neutralization before civilian authorities respond. The implications were clear. We weren't just cleaning up afterward. We were part of the active operation, erasing evidence in real time. Garcia led us to the command vehicle where 15 other agents had gathered. The mobile operations center contained wall-mounted displays showing downtown street grids, real-time surveillance feeds, and biosignature tracking data. 3 technicians monitored communications equipment, while a 4th updated movement predictions on a central map. N-26 represents our most significant containment failure, Garcia began without preamble. Intelligence confirms it has remained in major population centers since escape, moving between metropolitan areas approximately every 6 to 8 weeks. The central screen displayed a timeline of suspected appearances: Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, Atlanta, now Washington. Each location showed estimated civilian casualties and cover operations implemented. Pattern analysis suggests target selection focusing on high-value infrastructure or population concentrations, Garcia continued. Current predictive models indicate federal targets with highest probability. Maria studied the map with narrowed eyes. Moving toward the National Mall. Tourist season. Maximum civilian exposure. Precisely. Garcia highlighted the area on the digital display. Hunter teams will establish containment corridors. Here, here, and here. He marked 3 intersections surrounding the mall area. Primary engagement authorized with confirmed visual contact only. Biosignature readings require secondary verification before deployment. Samuel leaned toward the display. What about the metro system? Last time it escaped through underground access. Transit Authority has implemented a security exercise, closing all stations between L'Enfant Plaza and Smithsonian, Garcia replied. Maintenance teams are actually our people securing tunnel access points. The briefing continued with tactical assignments, communication protocols, and contingency plans. Throughout, I noticed Samuel's growing tension, checking his equipment repeatedly, eyes darting between the map and the door. Not fear exactly, but the heightened awareness of someone who understood exactly what we were facing. By contrast, Maria absorbed information with cold efficiency, asking pointed questions about tactical positioning and line of sight across open areas of the mall. Her focus reminded me of veteran squad leaders before high-risk operations, calculating angles, evaluating cover, mentally preparing for every contingency. Daniel listened silently, occasionally making notes on his tablet. When Garcia finished the primary briefing, Daniel pulled me aside. "Standard containment protocols won't apply today," he said quietly. "We'll be moving with hunter teams, neutralizing evidence in their wake. Priority will be body recovery, biosignature elimination, and witness management." "Body recovery?" I asked. His expression remained neutral. "N26 kills, Patterson. That's established fact. Our job is ensuring those deaths fit whatever narrative administration establishes afterward." The cold practicality of his statement hung between us. Not if people would die, but how we would conceal the truth afterward. Teams dispersed to assigned vehicles. Daniel and I loaded our equipment into the rear of a black Suburban, including specialized containment cases I hadn't used before. "These are for immediate field processing," Daniel explained, securing a silver case to the floor mounts. "Any biological material N26 leaves behind needs neutralization within minutes. This contains accelerated decomposition agents that break down anomalous tissue." Maria and Samuel approached our vehicle. Samuel carried what appeared to be a modified assault rifle with specialized ammunition magazines. Maria held a tablet displaying real-time biosignature readings. "We're primary pursuit team," she said. "You two stay exactly 20 to 30 yards behind our position. Maintain visual contact, but don't approach without direct instruction." Samuel checked his comm unit, face uncharacteristically serious. 3 other hunter teams establishing perimeter points. We're designated intercept team based on current movement projections. "Understood," Daniel replied, closing the equipment hatch. "We'll maintain distance and provide immediate containment support." Maria met my eyes directly. "Patterson, you've seen the footage. You know what this thing can do." She adjusted her tactical vest with practiced movements. "If engagement occurs, your priority is survival first, evidence containment second. No heroics." I nodded. Clear. We split into our assigned vehicles, Maria and Samuel taking the lead SUV, Daniel driving ours. 6 additional vehicles deployed to predetermined positions throughout the downtown area. As we pulled into morning traffic, Garcia's voice came through the comm system. "All units, biosignature detected at Smithsonian Metro entrance. Reading 7.6 on Landau scale. Proceed with caution. Confirmation required." Daniel navigated toward the location, maintaining precisely 28 yards behind Maria and Samuel's vehicle. Morning sunlight glinted off the marble buildings lining the mall. Early tourists gathered near the Air and Space Museum, unaware of the operation unfolding around them. My fingers rested near my holstered sidearm, a gesture more comforting than practical. If N26 could withstand multiple direct hits from specialized hunter ammunition, my standard-issue Glock would do little more than announce my position. "Team 2 reporting secondary confirmation," a woman's voice announced over comms. "Biosignature verified at 7.8, moving west along Independence Avenue." "Visual contact?" Garcia asked. "Negative. Signature only." Maria's voice cut through the chatter. "Target appears to be using morning commuter patterns for concealment. Tourist volume increasing in target area. Request authorization to clear civilians from projected intercept zone." "Negative," Garcia replied. "Maintain cover protocol. Metro Police are implementing security check delays to reduce civilian flow without causing panic." Samuel's voice carried unusual tension. "Sir, with civilian density increasing, our engagement options become severely limited." "Understood, Brooks. Intelligence is tracking movement through biosignature only. No direct engagement until visual confirmation and civilian separation achieved." We continued our careful pursuit, following Samuel and Maria's vehicle as they tracked the anomaly's movement through downtown Washington. Agency personnel in plainclothes subtly redirected pedestrians from key intersections, creating controlled corridors through the growing morning crowds. At 7:42, our convoy turned onto Independence Avenue. The Washington Monument rose ahead, its pale obelisk catching morning light. Tourists with cameras already gathered at its base. "Patterson," Daniel said quietly as we maintained position behind the Hunter vehicle. "If this goes sideways, our priority becomes witness management and scene containment. Administration will implement whatever cover story fits the scale of engagement." I watched Maria and Samuel's SUV ahead of us, noting how they maintained precise distance from surrounding civilian vehicles. "You've worked active model containment before?" "Once," Daniel replied, eyes on the road. "Type M incursion in Seattle 2 years ago. 8 civilian casualties, 16 agency personnel." Before I could ask more, Maria's voice came through the comm with sharp urgency. "Contact. Visual confirmation at Washington Monument Plaza, northwest quadrant. Female presentation, blue jacket, dark hair. Biosignature 8.2 and rising." Garcia's response was immediate. "All teams converge. Implement Containment Protocol 7. Civilian extraction teams activate." Daniel accelerated slightly, maintaining our position behind Maria and Samuel as they turned toward the monument grounds. Through the windshield, I saw what appeared to be plainclothes agents moving tourists away from the northwest area of the plaza, using badges and calm instructions. "Target is aware of surveillance," Samuel reported, biosignature fluctuating, preparing for engagement. Maria's voice followed, controlled but tight. "Target moving toward Constitution Gardens. Permission to pursue and engage." "Granted," Garcia replied. "All teams, target confirmed. N26 is mobile and heading toward the National Mall. Primary engagement team advance. All others establish containment perimeter." Daniel parked precisely 26 yards from where Maria and Samuel's vehicle stopped. We watched as they exited, weapons ready, but concealed beneath jackets. Samuel checked his specialized rifle one final time, eyes scanning the area ahead where tourists were being steadily cleared by agency personnel posing as security officers. "They're going after it," I said quietly. Daniel nodded, gathering our containment equipment, and we follow, exactly as instructed. He handed me a specialized scanner calibrated for N26's biosignature. "Whatever happens in the next 30 minutes, remember, our job isn't to engage the anomaly. It's to make sure the world never knows it existed." We exited the vehicle, equipment ready, and followed the hunters toward what would become either the agency's greatest success or most catastrophic failure. Ahead, Maria and Samuel moved with tactical precision toward Constitution Gardens, where their most dangerous enemy waited. The Washington Monument cast a long shadow across the grass as morning light strengthened. Within that shadow, something that appeared human but wasn't watched and waited for its hunters to approach. We followed Maria and Samuel's vehicle at precisely 27 yards distance, maintaining visual contact while Daniel navigated through increasing morning traffic. The comm unit in my ear carried a steady stream of position updates and biosignature readings. "Target moving west along Constitution Avenue," reported a voice I didn't recognize. "Biosignature holding at 7.3. Daniel adjusted our route, cutting through a service road to maintain our shadow position. Ahead, Maria and Samuel's SUV turned toward the Washington Monument grounds where early tourists already gathered with cameras and maps. "All teams, target has changed direction," Garcia's voice came through with crisp authority. "Biosignature now moving south toward the reflecting pool." Daniel checked the dashboard clock. 7:58, peak tourist arrival time. He pulled into a designated agency parking area, positioning our vehicle for quick access to 3 possible approach vectors. This complicates everything. Through the windshield, I counted 4 plainclothes agents establishing a loose perimeter, subtly redirecting civilians away from the primary engagement zone. They wore the practiced invisibility of people trained to work in public without being noticed. Government IDs flashed momentarily, Calm instructions given, tourists guided towards safer viewing areas without causing panic. Primary team moving to intercept, Maria reported through my earpiece. Biosignature strengthening to 8.2. Target is stationary near the west face of the monument. Samuel's voice followed, uncharacteristically tight. Civilian density approximately 73 individuals within 50-yard radius of target location. Garcia responded immediately. Implement extraction protocol 6. Maintain cover story of security sweep. Daniel handed me the specialized containment kit and nodded toward the monument. We maintain position 20 to 30 yards behind hunters. Prep biosignature neutralizer and witness management equipment. I checked the silver canister containing fast-acting chemical compounds designed to break down anomalous biological material. The attached sprayer resembled standard disinfectant equipment, deliberately ordinary looking for public operations. We exited the vehicle and moved toward the monument grounds, walking with purposeful strides that suggested official business without drawing attention. Ahead, Maria and Samuel separated, approaching from different angles while maintaining visual contact. Samuel carried what appeared to be a camera bag that I knew contained his specialized weapon. The Washington Monument rose against the clear morning sky, its pale surface reflecting sunlight. Tourists clustered around its base, unaware of the predator moving among them. I scanned the crowd, searching for anyone matching the description. Female presentation, blue jacket, dark hair. Visual confirmation. Maria's voice came through my earpiece, controlled but urgent. Northeast corner of the plaza, moving toward the Constitution Gardens path. Female in blue windbreaker, black pants. I followed Maria's sightline and saw her, an unremarkable woman who would blend into any crowd. Average height. Dark hair cut to shoulder length. Blue jacket zipped halfway. She carried a small backpack and moved with the casual gait of a tourist enjoying the morning. Nothing about her appearance suggested the creature I'd seen in the security footage. The inhuman speed, the strength that tore through reinforced doors, the regenerative capabilities that made her nearly indestructible. Subject appears aware of surveillance, Samuel reported. Walking pattern shows deliberate turns to assess surroundings, maintaining distance from concentrated civilian groups. Garcia's response was immediate. All teams maintain position. Primary engagement team proceed with caution. Civilian extraction continuing. Daniel tapped my shoulder and pointed to a park bench 30 yards from our position. Observation point. We'll establish preliminary containment prep there. We walked to the bench and set our equipment cases down, appearing to any observer like maintenance workers preparing for routine duties. Daniel removed a tablet disguised as a work order clipboard, actually displaying real-time biosignature readings from the area. She's putting distance between herself and the main tourist groups, Daniel observed quietly, moving toward less populated sections of the grounds. Through my earpiece, I heard Maria coordinating with other hunter teams. Team 3, maintain position at Madison Drive intersection. Team 2, circle to Independence Avenue exit point. Samuel's voice followed. Target accelerating slightly, heading directly toward Constitution Gardens pond area. I watched as Maria and Samuel closed distance with practiced efficiency, maintaining cover as they narrowed the gap between themselves and the anomaly. 3 other plainclothes agents converged from different directions, creating a loose containment pattern around the target area. The anomaly, still appearing completely human, paused near a tree, seemingly admiring the view across the water. She checked her watch with a natural gesture that would draw no attention from passers-by. In position, Maria reported. Samuel approaching from west side. Teams 2 and 3 have exit points covered. Garcia's voice came through with calm authority. Proceed with containment protocol. Civilian density has decreased to acceptable levels in target zone. I watched Samuel move with casual purpose, closing to within 15 yards of the anomaly while maintaining his cover as a tourist. His hand slipped inside his camera bag, undoubtedly gripping his specialized weapon. The woman turned slightly, scanning the area with what appeared to be casual interest. Her gaze passed over Samuel, then Maria, then continued around the perimeter where other agents had positioned themselves. Something changed in her posture. A subtle shift that raised every combat instinct I'd developed in Afghanistan. She knew. "She's made us," Samuel's urgent voice confirmed through the comm. Moving to engage. Everything happened with impossible speed. The woman, N26, stepped behind a tree and emerged on the other side, moving with blurred acceleration. One moment she stood admiring the view. The next, she crossed 20 yards toward the nearest hunter, covering the distance in under 2 seconds. The agent managed to draw his weapon, but never fired. N26 drove her hand into his chest with enough force that I heard the impact from our position 30 yards away. The agent dropped without a sound. "Contact! N26 is engaging." Samuel's voice erupted through the comm as he raised his weapon. "All teams converge." Tourists scattered at the sight of weapons, screaming and running in all directions. Plainclothes agents shouted official-sounding warnings about security threats and evacuation procedures. The practiced containment pattern dissolved into chaos. Daniel gripped my arm. "Maintain position. Prep for immediate evidence response." He activated his radio. "Cleanup standing by for containment. Request status." Through my field binoculars, I watched Maria and Samuel advance in tactical formation, weapons raised as other hunter teams provided covering fire. The anomaly moved between bullets with impossible agility, her human appearance intact but her movements revealing her true nature. 2 more hunters went down before I could process what was happening. One moment they stood with weapons raised, the next they lay broken on the grass. N26 moved too quickly to track with the naked eye, just blurred motion and bodies falling in her wake. "She's targeting response teams systematically," Maria reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Samuel, adjust position 3 yards east, converging fire pattern on my mark." Samuel shifted as instructed, maintaining his flank position to protect Maria's approach. His specialized rifle fired 3 rounds in rapid succession, the distinctive thump of specialized ammunition barely audible over the chaos of evacuating civilians and shouted orders. One round caught N26 in the shoulder, staggering her momentarily. She turned towards Samuel, her human expression replaced by something cold and calculating. "Impact confirmed," Samuel reported. "Minimal effect. Adjusting aim point." The anomaly vanished from my view. One moment she stood 30 yards from Samuel's position. The next, nothing. "Lost visual," Maria called urgently. "Biometric tracking?" A technician's voice responded. "Signal moving rapidly around perimeter. Speed exceeding tracking capability. Samuel, behind you!" Maria's warning came too late. N26 appeared directly behind Samuel, moving with such speed the human eye registered only the end result. One moment Samuel stood with his weapon raised. The next, the anomaly gripped him from behind. The sound carried clearly through the open space, a sharp crack that couldn't be mistaken for anything but breaking bone. Samuel's body went instantly limp, dropped to the grass with casual disregard. "Samuel!" Maria's scream tore through the comm system, raw emotion breaking through professional control. She emptied her magazine toward the anomaly, each shot perfectly placed despite her obvious distress. 3 rounds struck N26 directly in the torso. The anomaly staggered backward, blue-black fluid seeping from impact points. For 2.6 seconds, it appeared the specialized ammunition had an effect. Then N26 straightened, the wounds already closing. She turned toward Maria with predatory focus. "All teams converging fire on target," Garcia ordered through the comm. "Maximum suppression." 4 hunters from flanking positions opened fire simultaneously. The combined impact forced N26 backward, buying Maria precious seconds to reload. Daniel pulled me to my feet. "Move now. Biosignature containment at downed agent locations." We We ran toward the first fallen hunter, carrying our specialized equipment. Behind us, gunfire continued in concentrated bursts. I glanced back once to see N-26 retreating toward the tree line, still moving with unnatural speed, but clearly avoiding the concentrated fire from multiple directions. "Target moving toward Independence Avenue," reported a hunter from the perimeter team. "Possible metro access point." "Maintain pursuit," Garcia ordered. Teams 3 and 4 converge on underground access points. We reached the first fallen agent, a man in his 30s whose chest cavity had been torn open with impossible force. Daniel immediately began spraying the specialized neutralizing compound over the body and surrounding area, where blue-black residue marked N-26's contact points. "Begin documentation," Daniel instructed, his voice clinically detached. "Full biosignature mapping before removal." I activated the scanner, methodically recording residue patterns while checking for civilian witnesses. The evacuation had been remarkably effective. The immediate area contained only agency personnel now, some pursuing N-26, others establishing wider perimeter control. "Target has entered Metro Tunnel System at Independence Avenue access point," came the update through my earpiece. "Pursuit teams following." I looked toward Samuel's position. Maria knelt beside his body, one hand pressed against his neck, checking for a pulse she must have known wouldn't be there. Her other hand still gripped her weapon, knuckles white with tension. "Second body ready for transport," Daniel reported, sealing the first fallen agent in a specialized containment bag. "Moving to position 3. We worked with practiced efficiency despite the chaos. 3 fallen agents secured and prepped for transport within 6 minutes. Biosignature residue neutralized across the engagement area. Shell casings collected. Witness identification protocols implemented for any civilians who might have seen too much. Throughout it all, I kept glancing toward Maria. She hadn't moved from Samuel's side, maintaining her protective position even in death. Her posture conveyed what her professional demeanor couldn't: the devastation of losing her partner. Daniel approached her finally, scanner in hand. "Agent Thompson, we need to secure the area." Maria looked up, her expression shifting from raw grief to cold professionalism in the space of a breath. "Biosignature reading? Containment required immediately, residue at 8.7 and still active." She nodded once, rising to her feet with mechanical precision. "Implement standard protocol. I'll establish pursuit coordination with remaining teams." Daniel began the containment process while I maintained perimeter scanning. Samuel's body showed no external damage except the unnatural angle of his neck, a testament to N-26's precision and strength. The creature had eliminated him with singular purpose, targeting perhaps the most experienced hunter on site. "Target continuing through tunnel system," reported the pursuit team. "Biosignature fluctuating, but maintains distinct pattern, heading southeast toward Capitol South Station." Garcia's voice cut through the chatter. "All surface teams implement cover protocol 7. Media response units activate. Official statement: terror suspect neutralized after attempted attack on Monument grounds. 3 federal agents down in the line of duty." The lie assembled itself with practiced efficiency, the truth about N-26 replaced with a narrative the public could comprehend. By afternoon, news channels would report a thwarted terrorist attack. The president might make a statement about the bravery of fallen agents. Flags would lower to half-staff. No one would know that Samuel died fighting something that shouldn't exist, that the woman in the blue jacket who escaped into the metro tunnels could appear anywhere, among any crowd, completely indistinguishable until she chose to reveal herself. I sealed the containment bag around Samuel's body, noticing how Maria watched from 20 feet away, her expression unreadable. Her eyes tracked every movement as we prepared her partner for transport, her hand still resting on her reloaded weapon. "Patterson," Daniel said quietly as we secured the final seal. "All evidence contains active biosignature components. Priority transport to facility immediately." I nodded, helping load Samuel's body into the unmarked agency vehicle that had arrived during cleanup. The driver, a containment specialist I'd never met, secured the doors with practiced efficiency. Maria approached as the vehicle prepared to depart. "I'm going with the pursuit team." Daniel shook his head. "Garcia's orders. All primary engagement personnel to return to facility for debriefing and medical evaluation." Her expression hardened. "N26 is still out there, and 3 teams are in pursuit," Daniel replied evenly. "Standard protocol after agent loss requires—" "I know the protocol." Her voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before. Samuel knew it too. Didn't save him. She turned away before Daniel could respond, walking toward one of the remaining agency vehicles. Her movements remained precise and controlled, but something in her posture had changed, a barely contained fury replacing her usual focused calm. Daniel sighed, checking his tablet for final biosignature readings. Baseline levels nearly restored. Administration teams will handle remaining civilian management and media response. I looked around at the monument grounds where tourists had stood 20 minutes earlier. Now agency personnel in various disguises, park service, maintenance workers, security officers, moved with purpose, erasing every trace of what had actually happened. By tomorrow, the grass where Samuel died would show no sign of his passing. The truth would disappear beneath layers of carefully constructed fiction. The public would mourn fallen federal agents without ever knowing what really killed them. "Come on," Daniel said, gathering our equipment. "Facility debriefing in 30 minutes. Garcia will want complete documentation." We walked back to our vehicle in silence. Behind us, the Washington Monument stood unchanged against the morning sky, oblivious to the battle that had unfolded in its shadow, a battle that would never appear in any history book, fought by people whose real purpose would never be acknowledged. I checked my watch. 8:26 in the morning. For most of DC, the day was just beginning. For Samuel Brooks, it had already ended forever. We secured Samuel's body with methodical precision. Daniel worked the seals on the containment bag while I documented final biosignature readings. The scanner registered 8.2, active and potent, despite Samuel's death occurring 17 minutes earlier. "Bag is prepped for transport," Daniel said, checking the integrity of each seal. "Make sure you log chain of custody for the personal effects." I nodded, cataloging Samuel's watch, agency credentials, and the specialized ammunition from his tactical vest. Standard procedure performed hundreds of times at scenes far less personal than this one. Maria stood 20 yards away, coordinating with the remaining hunter teams via comms. Her posture remained rigid, professional discipline masking whatever grief churned beneath the surface. She checked her weapon with the unconscious efficiency of someone who had performed the action thousands of times. "Final scan completed," I reported, securing the data tablet in its case. "Biosignature containment at 97% effectiveness." Daniel nodded toward the agency transport vehicle that had arrived for body recovery. "Let's move him. Administration needs the area cleared for civilian cover story implementation." We lifted Samuel's containment bag onto the gurney, the specialized material heavier than standard body bags. The transport techs, 2 men in unmarked black uniforms, said nothing as we transferred custody, simply verifying chain of evidence documentation with practiced efficiency. "Patterson." Maria's voice carried across the space between us. She approached with measured steps, her weapon reloaded and secured at her side. Secondary teams report tunnel search continuing. N26's biosignature weakening but still present in the southeast quadrant. I nodded, noting the careful control in her voice. "Any visual confirmation?" "Negative. Signature only." She checked her watch, a tactical model with reinforced casing. "Garcia wants immediate extraction of all evidence. Cover teams arriving in 7 minutes." Daniel secured the scanner equipment in its case. "Almost finished. Just need final verification on..." The comms system erupted with sudden urgency. All teams, biosignature resurging at primary engagement site. The voice belonged to a technician monitoring the tracking system. Reading 9.3 and accelerating. Maria's hand moved to her weapon instantly. Location: 50 yards southeast of your position and closing rapidly. Daniel's head snapped up, eyes scanning the tree line where the metro tunnel access point lay partially hidden by landscaping. She doubled back. All teams converge on primary site, Garcia's voice commanded through the comms. Target returning to engagement zone. Everything happened at once. Maria stepped forward, weapon already drawn as she moved to establish line of sight toward the reported location. Daniel grabbed the remaining containment equipment, preparing for secondary engagement. The transport techs sealed Samuel's body in the vehicle with urgent efficiency. I drew my sidearm, scanning the area where the anomaly had disappeared 17 minutes earlier. Nothing moved except agency personnel rushing into defensive positions. Then I saw it. A blur of motion near the maintenance shed that concealed the metro access point. Not quite visible, not quite invisible, just faster than human eyes could properly track, moving directly toward our position. Contact, I shouted, raising my weapon. 9 o'clock near the maintenance access. Maria pivoted, already firing toward the location I'd indicated. Her specialized rounds tore through the morning air with distinctive cracks. N-26 emerged fully into view, now moving with deliberate human speed, as if wanting to be seen. The anomaly's appearance remained completely ordinary. A woman in a blue jacket, dark hair, unremarkable features. Only her eyes revealed something else entirely. Cold, calculating, predatory. Maria emptied her magazine in a controlled burst. 3 rounds struck N-26 directly in the torso. The anomaly staggered slightly, blue-black fluid seeping from impact points. Then she straightened, the wounds already closing before our eyes. Reloading, Maria called, her movements precise despite the impossible threat advancing toward her. She ejected the spent magazine with practiced efficiency. It was exactly the opening N-26 had waited for. The anomaly crossed 27 yards in less than 2 seconds, a blur of motion that resolved itself directly in front of Maria. Before she could seat the fresh magazine, N-26 struck her with an open-handed blow to the chest. The impact lifted Maria completely off her feet. She flew backward 6 yards before hitting the ground with a sickening thud, her weapon skittering across the grass. Her body contorted unnaturally on impact, spine bent at an angle human vertebrae couldn't withstand. Maria! The shout tore from my throat as I fired repeatedly at the anomaly. My round struck N-26 center mass. 1, 2, 3 impacts that would have dropped any human threat instantly. The creature's head snapped toward me, its expression shifting subtly. Something inhuman rippled beneath the skin of its face, a momentary glimpse of what truly lived behind the human disguise. Daniel shouted into his comm unit. Agent down. N-26 engaging at primary site. Immediate medical response. N-26 started moving toward me with deliberate, almost curious steps. Each bullet impact slowed it momentarily before the wounds sealed themselves. Blue-black fluid seeped through the anomaly's clothing, then stopped as the damage repaired itself. I continued firing until my magazine emptied. The clicking sound of the striker hitting nothing felt impossibly loud in my ears. N-26 tilted its head slightly, studying me with inhuman eyes. Its human disguise began slipping, joints elongating, fingers stretching into something resembling claws rather than hands. The face remained mostly human, but the eyes had changed completely, vertical pupils dilating in the morning light. Patterson, move! Daniel's voice cut through my frozen assessment. Before I could react, Daniel charged the creature from behind, driving a specialized containment rod into its back. The device, designed to deliver a concentrated dose of neutralizing agent directly into anomalous tissue, penetrated 3 inches into N-26's shoulder. The creature arched backward, a sound emerging from its throat that contained too many tones to be human. It spun with impossible speed, one elongated arm catching Daniel across the chest. The impact drove him against the transport vehicle with enough force to dent the reinforced metal. Daniel slumped to the ground, eyes still open but seeing nothing, his neck bent at an angle that told me everything I needed to know. N26 turned back toward me, the containment rod still protruding from its shoulder. Blue-black fluid leaked around the entry point, but the creature's movements showed no impairment. It took one step forward, then another. I reached for my spare magazine, knowing it wouldn't matter. Standard ammunition had proven useless. Daniel was dead. Maria lay broken on the grass 15 yards away. Samuel's body rested in the transport vehicle behind me. I was alone with the anomaly that had killed 3 of the agency's most experienced operatives. The distinctive sound of specialized hunter rifles erupted from 3 different directions. Reinforcement teams had arrived, concentrating fire on N26 from multiple angles. The anomaly's body jerked with each impact, blue-black fluid spraying from a dozen wounds. For 3.4 seconds, N26 stood its ground, absorbing the concentrated fire. Then it turned and moved with blurred speed back toward the metro access point, covering 60 yards in under 4 seconds. "Target retreating to tunnel system," reported a hunter team leader through the comms. "All units pursue and maintain fire." I holstered my empty weapon and ran to Maria. She lay on her back, eyes open and alert despite her body's unnatural positioning. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, her breathing shallow and irregular. "Medical response incoming," I told her, kneeling beside her broken form. "Just hold on." Maria's eyes focused on mine with startling clarity. "Samuel," I shook my head slightly. "I'm sorry." She closed her eyes briefly, pain crossing her features that had nothing to do with her physical injuries. When she looked at me again, she gripped my wrist with surprising strength. "Daniel?" she asked, though her eyes told me she already knew. "Gone," I confirmed, the word inadequate for what had happened. She nodded once, a small movement that caused her to wince. "Listen carefully." Each word emerged with deliberate effort. "N26 is learning, adapting to our tactics." I held her hand, feeling her pulse weakening beneath my fingers. "Medical team is 2 minutes out." "No time." Her voice grew softer. "It will come back. Always comes back." Her grip tightened momentarily. "Remember what you saw today, how it moves, how it thinks." Blood bubbled at her lips with each labored breath. Her spine had been shattered by the impact. No medical intervention would reverse that kind of damage. "You need to fight it," she whispered. "Someone has to." Her grip on my hand loosened. I held on anyway, watching as her breathing grew more irregular, then stopped altogether. Her eyes remained open, fixed on something beyond the clear morning sky above us. I closed her eyes gently, then stood to face the approaching medical team. "Agent down," I reported with mechanical precision. "Time of death approximately 8:43. The next 30 minutes blurred into a sequence of procedural responses, medical personnel confirming what I already knew, containment teams securing Daniel's body and the area where Maria had fallen, administration specialists coordinating the cover story with local authorities. Garcia arrived on scene, his normally impassive expression tightened with something that might have been grief. "Preliminary report," he requested, standing beside me as we watched Maria's body being prepared for transport. I delivered the facts with detached precision. N26's return through the metro access, the deliberate targeting of Maria during reload, Daniel's attempted intervention, the anomaly's escape despite concentrated fire from multiple teams. Garcia listened without interruption, his eyes tracking the efficient movement of agency personnel across the engagement area. When I finished, he nodded once. 3 agents lost, target uncontained. His voice carried the weight of professional failure. Most significant operational loss since Portland, 2016. We stood in silence for 17 seconds. "You're the only witness to all 3 deaths," Garcia finally said. "That makes your debriefing priority 1. Transport to facility will depart in 12 minutes. I nodded, watching as Maria's body was sealed in a containment bag identical to Samuel's. 3 team members gone in less than 1 hour. 3 people I'd worked alongside, learned from, begun to trust. "Sir," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "N26. It was different this time." Garcia turned to face me directly. "Explain." "It adapted to our tactics, used Maria's reload as an opening, targeted the most experienced personnel first." I gestured toward the metro access point. "The retreat into the tunnels, then doubling back. That wasn't random. It was tactical." Garcia's expression revealed nothing, but his posture shifted slightly. "Your assessment? It's learning," I said, echoing Maria's final words. "Getting smarter with each engagement." The agency director glanced toward the transport vehicles where 3 containment bags now held the bodies of veteran operatives. "Complete debriefing at the facility, full tactical and psychological assessment." He walked away without waiting for acknowledgement, already coordinating with other team leaders through his comm unit. I stood alone for exactly 57 seconds, cataloging details with the detached precision my military training had instilled. The morning sun continuing to rise over the National Mall, birds returning to trees near the engagement site, the complete absence of civilian witnesses thanks to the agency's efficient evacuation protocols. By tomorrow, this location would show no evidence of what had happened. The public would never know that 3 people had died fighting something that shouldn't exist, that a creature wearing human form had escaped again, free to blend into any crowd, indistinguishable, until it chose to reveal itself. I checked my watch. 9:07 in the morning. In my pocket, Maria's ID badge pressed against my thigh, retrieved from the grass where she'd fallen. Standard procedure required all personal effects be cataloged and secured. I would return it during the debriefing. For now, it served as a physical reminder of her final words. Someone had to fight these things. Someone had to remember. The news anchor's voice carried through Garcia's office with practiced solemnity. "Federal authorities have confirmed 3 agents were killed during this morning's thwarted terrorist attack near the Washington Monument. The suspect, described as a lone wolf extremist, detonated an improvised explosive device before being neutralized by security personnel." The footage showed cordoned areas exactly where we'd fought N26. Scorched pavement and debris replaced the actual evidence. Emergency vehicles with flashing lights created a visual barrier between truth and fabrication. Personnel in FBI windbreakers moved purposefully through the scene, collecting evidence that hadn't existed 3 hours earlier. Garcia sat behind his desk, tie loosened half an inch from its usual precise position. The clock on his wall read 3:17. We'd been debriefing since 11:30, with technical specialists recording every detail of my observations in 15-minute intervals. "The cover implementation is proceeding on schedule," Garcia said, muting the television. "Administration has prepared complete background materials supporting the narrative. By tomorrow morning, no evidence of anomalous activity will remain at the site." Garcia opened the personnel file on his desk. "Your statement has been processed. Psych evaluation indicates elevated stress markers but acceptable cognitive function." He looked up. "Standard protocol after field agent loss requires mandatory 72-hour stand-down period." The office walls displayed framed certificates and commendations, the trappings of bureaucratic achievement that revealed nothing about the true nature of Garcia's work. No photographs of family, no personal touches, just documentation of a career spent managing impossible truths. "Agent Martinez trained you well," Garcia continued, his fingers aligned precisely with the edge of my file. "His 17 years of field experience made him our most senior cleanup specialist. We've lost not just personnel today, but institutional knowledge." I maintained eye contact. "What happens now?" Garcia leaned back slightly, the first break in his rigid posture. That depends on you, Patterson. 3 options exist following an incident of this magnitude. He raised one finger. First, immediate administrative transfer. Your knowledge and experience would be valuable in support operations, documentation, or training development. The implication was clear. A desk job, safely removed from direct contact with anomalies. Second option? I asked. Continued assignment within Cleanup Division under modified protocols. You would be partnered with a senior specialist from another team, implementing enhanced safety measures during evidence management operations. The third option remained unspoken between us. I waited, watching Garcia's face for any break in his professional mask. The third option, he finally said, would be voluntary separation with full benefits and comprehensive memory modification. You would return to civilian life with no recollection of anomalous encounters or agency operations. The overhead fluorescence hummed at a frequency just below conscious awareness. On the muted television, the fabricated narrative continued playing out. Experts discussing terrorist motivations that didn't exist, analyzing evidence manufactured in agency workshops. Voluntary separation, I repeated. You'd erase everything I've seen. Garcia's expression remained neutral. Modified memories would replace actual events. You would recall government service and hazardous materials management. Psychologically difficult incidents would be reframed as conventional threats. Chemical exposures, environmental contamination, industrial accidents. I thought about what that would mean. Forgetting Samuel's steady presence during operations, his quiet competence masquerading as casual confidence. Losing Maria's fierce dedication to protecting people from threats they couldn't comprehend. Erasing Daniel's patient instruction that had kept me alive these past weeks. How many take that option? I asked. Garcia hesitated 4 seconds before answering. 17% of field personnel following catastrophic team loss. He straightened a pen on his desk. The number increases to 23% after direct engagement with model series anomalies. The air conditioning cycled on with a soft mechanical sigh. Outside Garcia's window, the afternoon sun illuminated neighboring government buildings, ordinary structures housing ordinary operations alongside our extraordinary ones. I'm not interested in any of those options, I said. Garcia's eyebrow raised 3 millimeters. Explain. I leaned forward, resting my forearms on my knees. I want transfer to Hunter Division. The silence stretched to 11 seconds. Hunter Division, Garcia repeated, his tone revealing nothing. You've been with the agency less than 3 weeks. I've seen enough. I maintained eye contact. Type Cs in Maryland and Virginia. The Model 47 aftermath. N26 today. Garcia opened a second file folder. Agent Thompson mentioned discussing potential Hunter qualification with you. Her notes indicate she observed aptitude for threat assessment and tactical thinking. He looked up. She did not, however, initiate formal transfer protocols. There wasn't time, I said. Garcia studied my face. Hunter Division maintains the highest casualty rate within the agency. Today's losses represent that reality. 3 experienced field agents eliminated in less than 30 minutes. I'm aware. Your military background provides useful foundation, but Hunter operations require specialized training. Minimum qualification period is 6 months. Garcia closed the folder, during which your exposure to direct anomalous engagement would increase by approximately 70%. The room temperature felt exactly 68 degrees. Garcia's desk contained precisely arranged stacks of files with color-coded tabs. Everything about this space projected control and organization, a deliberate counterpoint to the chaos we managed outside these walls. I watched 3 people die this morning, I said. People who understood what we're really fighting. Garcia nodded once. And your conclusion? Someone has to stand against these things. I reached into my pocket, placing Maria's credentials on the desk between us. Garcia picked up the ID badge, examining Maria's photograph with unreadable eyes. Agent Thompson served 12 years with Hunter Division. Her assessment carries significant weight. He set the badge down precisely aligned with the edge of my file, as does her loss. Outside, a helicopter passed overhead, its rhythmic thumping briefly interrupting our conversation. Garcia waited until the sound faded before continuing. Hunter qualifications begin with psychological assessment followed by specialized weapons training, advanced anomaly recognition, containment protocols beyond those you've learned with Cleanup Division. He looked directly at me. The likelihood of completing your first year of field operations would be approximately 64%. Better odds than my second deployment to Helmand Province, I replied. Garcia's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. This isn't war, Patterson. Not in the conventional sense. Isn't it? I gestured toward the muted television where the fictional terrorist narrative continued. 3 agents dead. An enemy that learns our tactics and exploits our weaknesses. Civilians we're protecting who don't even know they're in danger. I shook my head. Sounds like war to me, just with different boundaries. Garcia considered this for 9 seconds. Your military background does provide relevant experience. Combat decision-making under extreme stress, threat assessment with limited information, unit cohesion during casualty events. He made a note in the file. These are valuable qualities in Hunter personnel. The wall clock ticked forward another minute. Garcia's office remained precisely organized, everything in its designated place, a controlled environment for managing uncontrollable threats. Preliminary training would begin after your stand-down period, Garcia said finally. 72 hours mandatory recovery. Report to Sub-Level 5 at 0800 Monday for initial Hunter assessment protocols. I nodded, understanding this represented significant deviation from standard procedure. Thank you, sir. Garcia closed both files. This decision places you on a different trajectory, Patterson. One with higher operational tempo and increased personal risk. He looked at me directly. Agent Thompson saw something in you worth developing. I'm inclined to respect her judgment. The implied question hung between us. Was I certain about this choice? I watched that thing kill 3 experienced agents today, I said. I saw how it moved, how it thought, how it adapted to our tactics. I straightened in my chair. Someone needs to remember that. Someone needs to fight back. Garcia studied me for 12 seconds before speaking. Agent Thompson said something similar when she joined Hunter Division 5 years ago. He pushed Maria's credentials back across the desk. Keep this until processing completes the official documentation transfer. I pocketed the ID, understanding the gesture represented more than administrative convenience. Specialized equipment issue will occur during your training orientation. Until then, maintain standard field kit with emergency notification protocols. Garcia stood, indicating our meeting had concluded. The agency has lost significant operational capacity today, Patterson. Your decision helps mitigate that loss. I rose, recognizing that this was the closest Garcia came to expressing approval. What about N26? Has Pursuit maintained contact? Last confirmed biosignature reading was at 11:23 near Union Station. Garcia replied. Signal strength decreasing, but still distinct. 3 Hunter teams continue monitored pursuit while containment prepares specialized equipment for next engagement opportunity. I nodded, understanding the unspoken reality. N26 remained at large, capable of killing again whenever it chose. Garcia extended his hand across the desk. 72 hours, Patterson. Use the time to process today's events. Hunter training allows no space for unresolved trauma. His handshake lasted exactly 3 seconds, professional and controlled like everything else about him. Outside Garcia's office, the operations center hummed with activity. Analysts tracked biosignature readings across digital maps of the district. Tactical teams prepared equipment for deployment. Medical personnel processed the remains of our fallen agents. I checked my watch. 3:36 in the afternoon. Less than 8 hours since I'd watched Samuel, Maria, and Daniel die. Their bodies now lay in specialized containment units 3 floors below, being processed according to protocols they'd helped develop and implement. The thought should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it produced a strange clarity, a sense of purpose I hadn't experienced since leaving military service. The anomalies wouldn't stop. N-26 wouldn't be the last impossible threat we faced. Someone had to stand against them, understanding both what they were and what they could do. I walked toward the elevator, mentally cataloging the equipment I would need for hunter qualification. The weight of Maria's ID in my pocket reminded me of her final words. It will come back. Always comes back. Remember what you saw today. I would remember, and I would be ready when it returned.